It's a beautiful Sunday morning on the Housatonic Railroad when we set up on North Elm Street, as the day for the NX-12 is already underway by proceeding east to Specialty Minerals. Once all derails were down and the crossing was protected, the NX-12 proceeds east ahead of the switch to pick up 11 cars of limestone that would head north to the CSX interchange in Pittsfield. Once the switch was realigned, the NX-12 shoves back into Specialty Minerals to tie onto the first cut of cars and pull them out of Specialty Minerals, where they'll be set aside on the main. Once tied on, the NX-12 brings the first cut of cars up and ahead of the switch, onto trackage that was once part of the Central New England Railway. Once ahead of the switch, the NX-12 shoves back down the hill, clear of the switch and clear of the crossing, before picking up the remaining cars that need to be picked up. Once set on the main, the NX-12 heads engines light back ahead of the switch to tie onto the remaining cars before heading back into town. Once the NX-12 was tied onto the rest of the loads, the NX-12 pulls back east ahead of the switch to tie onto the first cut of cars, then head back west into town. Once tied on to all 11 loads, the NX-12 begins to shove west to the Berkshire line. At the Canaan Y, we see the NX-12 rolling through, on the south leg of the Y, heading onto the Berkshire line, before heading north to crossovers. At Main Street, we see the NX-12 heading north. With crossing signals now active, the NX-12 no longer has to stop and flag the crossing. At Barracks Road, we are just north of crossovers, located in between Miller Siding, where the Housatonic stores cars for specialty minerals, but in this case, the NX-12 will be switching out Miller Siding, taking empties for specialty minerals out, and in place dropping the loads that will head north to Pittsfield into Marl's Light. Once ahead of the switch, the NX-12 shoves back into Miller's siding to begin switching out the empties prior to tying down the loads. Once tied on, the NX-12 pulls the first of the empties out of Miller's siding, then will position them on the main before dropping the loads. Once ahead of the switch, the NX-12 shoves back on the main. Once the empties were clear of Miller's siding, the NX-12 pulls back ahead of the switch to continue switching at crossovers as they make room for the 11 loads going in. Once tied on, the NX-12 pulls back ahead onto the main, as conductors Noah and Zach make their way to the rear end of the train to guide the backup move over Ashley Falls Road. Once at the rear end of the train, the NX-12 shoves back south on Miller's siding and across Ashley Falls Road to make room for the 11 loads. Once the needed room was created, the NX-12 cuts the southmost cars south of the crossing circuit and pulls the rest of the train back north ahead of Ashley Falls Road. Once the rest of the train was off the crossing circuit, the NX-12 ties down the remaining cars and pulls back ahead of the switch and onto the main to tie onto the empties for specialty minerals. As the NX-12 tied onto the empties, we reposition to Ashley Falls Road. As the crossing activates and the gates lower, for the NX-12 shoving 5 empties for specialty minerals. From Ashley Falls Road, we move to Main Street as the NX-12 heads off the Berkshire line and onto the CNE, heading east up the hill to Specialty Minerals. Back at Specialty Minerals, we see the NX-12 on the hill, shoving back into Specialty Minerals once the switch was realigned. Once spotted under the loader, the NX-12 cuts to two hoppers from the train and pulls back ahead of Specialty Minerals before spotting the remaining empties. Once all the empties were spotted in Specialty Minerals, their work in Canaan is now complete. As they pull back ahead of Specialty Minerals, the NX-12 will head to the southbound train that was left Friday night. At the south end of Canaan Y, the NX-12 is seen heading off the C&E and back onto the Berkshire line, before heading north back to Barracks Road. At Barracks Road, we see the NX-12 with the GMTX Smurfs slowly approaching their southbound train, which consists of 6 loads of lumber for Chippewa, 2 empties for the Hollyville bulk track, 10 loads of paper for Kimberly-Clark, and to finish it off 4 loads for Farmco, 1 containing isopropyl alcohol, and the rest carrying ethanol. From Barracks Road, we reposition just south of the shops, as the NX-12 continues south past Sand Road, where they would mark the rear end of their train and do their brake test before continuing south for New Milford. As the NX-12 does their brake test, we move to Point of Rocks Road, where after finishing their brake test, we see the NX-12 rounding the bend, moving at track speed as they head south on the Berkshire line. On Lime Rock Station Road, we move into Falls Village, as the NX-12 maintains track speed as they begin to parallel the Housatonic River. On River Road, we position just north of milepost 39, when the NX-12 rounds into view at 10 miles per hour, with the Housatonic River just beyond the tree line. In West Cornwall, we see the NX-12 make itself known, as the 3 crossings activate and lower to protect the NX-12 from any cars unaware of them. At Cornwall Bridge, we are set up on the old station platform that once served passengers from the excursions that started the Housatonic Railroad that we know today. On Route 7, we are right next to the Argent Lumber steam locomotive, as the NX-12 continues south down the straightaway and into the town of Kent. On South Kent Road, we are positioned just north of Hatch Pond, where we see the NX-12 back at track speed on welded rail that looks to be in good shape. On Rooster Tail Hollow, we are positioned on the outskirts of New Milford, where we find rotted ties and old rails used to hold up the crossbuck that notifies oncoming traffic that the NX-12 is coming through. On Boardman Road, the crossing activates and the gates lower for the NX-12 as they are on their final approach into the Milford yard. On Patriots Way, we are set up by the old New Milford station. As the NX-12 enters New Milford yard limits, continuing south to Kimberly-Clark, where they will hand the train over to tomorrow's NX-10. Across the river from KC, we see the NX-12 crossing the Housatonic River, with their northbound train just about ready, as they pull ahead to put on the marker. Once the marker was hooked up to the rear end of their train, the NX-12 shoves back to pick up Noah, and once done, the NX-12 departs northbound back to Canaan. Back at Patriots Way, we see the NX-12 heading north, with a total of 6 cars from Oak Ridge that will be heading north to Pittsfield on tomorrow's train. As the NX-12 heads north out of New Milford, that would conclude today's chase of the NX-12, and as always from the Weathered Rails, thanks for watching.